back in July, welcoming the new, I think it was in July. I wouldn't swear to it. Might have been
I'll look it
August,
up. I'll look it
one
up.
month is just sort of blending into another. So hold on. All right.
Seems we have 6 out of 12.
Okay, so our membership is, I'm just going to do a quick roll call. I'm here. Barbara, you're here. Alexis is excused. Sally is excused. Naima, you're here. Nobles will be along presently. Danny is here. Mansita Diawara, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Hi, welcome. If I could ask the members of the committee to just keep their cameras on if they can, at least for a little bit. I mean, technically that is required by the New York State Open Meetings Law, but also particularly for folks who are new, we haven't met you yet. And these are such weird circumstances under which to meet people, but it's nice to at least be able to put faces to names so that we recognize each other when we should have the opportunity to meet in person. We've got Maria Del Valle. Did I pronounce your name correctly? And are you here? I'm looking to see.
She's not here yet.
Okay, I think Maria is not. Okay. And then Jamirna, are you here? Jamirna not here. And Luana Ferreira. Also not here. Okay, Paola, if you can just make sure that
you read them off right. That is the complete roster of your members, and the people that have not joined are not in your meeting yet, but you did announce them. So the roster that you read out loud is the correct one.
Excellent. Okie dokie. Thank you for that confirmation. All right.
And I myself don't have all the docs here, but I checked the last document that I have and it seems to match yours. If there's any update to that, I'll let you know when I'm in the office tomorrow.
Okay, I appreciate that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 members. We need 6 for quorum, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5. So when Nobles gets here, or if any of our new members arrive, we will have quorum. But until we have quorum, I can't call the meeting to order technically because we don't have quorum, but I think we certainly can start.
Do Alexis and Naima count toward quorum? Our public members?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do our public members, Alexis and Naima, count toward quorum?
Yes, they do.
Okay, because
that's why we have 11 members and we need 6 for quorum. Okay. And frankly, even if they didn't, we'd have 9 members and we'd need 5 for quorum, and we have 4. So we still need 1 more person for quorum.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask everybody who is for people, if they can, to turn their cameras on, because it's just nice to see who's here. Although if you are here for as a public presenter for a particular agenda item and you're just dialed in and waiting to pay attention until your number comes up, as it were, that's fine if you turn your cameras off. I'm going to ask everybody who isn't speaking to turn their audio off. It reduces background noise. So Barbara, if you wouldn't mind going on mute, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you. So we can start at 6:40. Apologize for the delays. Welcome back. Happy September. It's great to be back. I am sad to not be meeting in person because I think that would be kind of nice, particularly since we have new members. Welcome to Metsita. Welcome to Community Board 12, and I'm so happy that you're on the Parks Committee. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you want to just give us a 30-second intro on where in the board you are and anything else you'd like to add, that would be fantastic.
Hi, sure. So my name is Mansita Diawara, and this is my first year being on the community board. I'm on the Parks and Cultures Committee. I've lived in the neighborhood for 8 years, but I'm a local New Yorker. I'm also a photographer and consultant, and I'm really excited to be on this committee, and I have a lot of questions, and yeah, I'm just excited to learn a lot of stuff. So thank you.
Fantastic. Welcome. I'm not sure, but I think that makes you our first artist who's a member of the committee. So that's very exciting. So welcome. I'm glad to have you on board. In terms of some updates and announcements, the West 186th Street basketball presentation is, we look forward to hearing that in October. We were hoping to possibly have that this month, but we're going to have that in October, and that's going to be a reso item. Note to Paola, if you can possibly grab the email addresses from the folks who attended the meeting back in, I want to say April, might have been May. Jennifer, correct me if it was April or May. You know what? We can check the minutes. But Paola, if you are able to send a specific invite to those folks to help get the word out to please attend the October meeting, that would be great. The Row New York concession for the sole source concession agreement for the boathouse at Sherman Creek was supposed to go before the FCRC back in July, then it was moved to August, then it was moved to September. That public hearing was yesterday. I testified on behalf of the community board. I see we have nobles in the house.
I'm so glad to be back.
So we now have quorum.
Thank you, Chair.
Yay. Yay. So we have nobles in the house, and I'm calling this meeting officially to order at 6:43 with quorum. So the Row New York FCRC hearing was yesterday, and the FCRC will be voting on that item tomorrow. It was strongly endorsed by the borough president, who has a seat on the FCRC, and there were two people testifying, myself and a member of the public, who was not testifying so much in opposition, but had some environmental concerns. So I do not imagine that there will be any issues with that passing. NYRP signed an agreement with the Parks Department. With Row New York regarding space. So I think that the issues there have been resolved, and the Parks Department is going to be working to try and get additional funding for additional restroom facilities in the Sherman Creek area. But it looks like our continued concerns around bathrooms are not going to stop that very much needed and very much supported program from going forward. So that feels like good news to me. I don't think we have an update on the Fort Washington Park Pathways and Benches project, but if there is, I imagine Jennifer will cover that when she gives her report later in the agenda. The Dykeman Echo Dock scoping meeting was extremely well attended over the summer, big success. And we look forward to a presentation from the Parks Department in November. So that will also be a reso item. It's going to be lots of reso items from this committee. Mancita, you're on the right committee if you want to be in there doing work, because we have lots of different capital projects that are happening in the community. The Fort Washington Park, Hudson River Greenway closure and work. I imagine Jennifer will cover that during her report as well. And last item for me two other items for updates and announcements. Our December meeting is scheduled. I believe by that time we will be back in person. And so that meeting has been tentatively scheduled to be at the United Palace. Back when we had meetings in person, we like to move things around and not just have all of our meetings all the time at the community board office. We like to have at least 2 of our meetings a year elsewhere in the community. So the United Palace very generously offered their space, and I look forward to doing that in December. And last, there have been some questions about what's happening with the Little Red Lighthouse in Fort Washington Park. You may recall several months ago, we had a presentation from the Parks the Historic House Trust on the desperate need for a pretty substantial capital project to renovate the lighthouse. And the Historic Trust was not wrong. It is really in need of renovations. And I think Jennifer might have some additional information about that regarding what's going to be happening at the upcoming Little Red Lighthouse Festival. And really my last announcement, speaking of upcoming festivals, October 2nd, the return of the Medieval Festival in Fort Tryon Park. So excited. It is a great community event. We love it here in the community. People come from all over the city and the surrounding areas for that event. And I think this year it's going to be extra special since it will have been, we missed 2 years. So it will have been 3 years since we were last together at the Medieval Festival, and that is very exciting. So with that, I have no additional announcements. And just for those of you, ordinarily, I would do a pinned screen with the agenda, but if I do that, I'm going to lose everybody's faces. So just in terms of letting people know what's happening in this meeting, if you did not get the agenda, the next item is going to be our usual programming updates from Cultural and Friends of Parks organizations. People just by raised hands will go around the Zoom and call on people in the order in which they raise their hands so that they can tell us what's going on in their corner of the arts and parks world. Next, we'll have a brief parks report from Jennifer, who will give us some updates on not only the things that I mentioned, but I'm sure a couple of other items as well. We'll have a brief update from the Audubon mural project. Avi Gittler's in the house. We'll have a brief update on capital and expense needs from Shiloh Hawley, Morris Jamel Mansion in the house. We'll have a presentation from the Parks Capital Division on the comfort station at Fort Washington Park Discovery Playground here at CB12 Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee. We are all about bathrooms. Then we'll have a presentation by Pace University Environmental Sciences Studies Student Research Project on Sherman Creek with Dr. Ann Toomey, Jason Smith, Corey Hassan, and students. We'll have just a preliminary conversation about our fiscal 24 capital and expense budget priorities, which is something that we will devote substantial time to at our next meeting. And then if we haven't all passed out by then, we'll have time for old business, new business, mail, and any additional announcements. So Barbara, are you raising your hand for a
Yes, Green
cultural
Garden.
organization,
Garden.
neighborhood
Green
organization?
Garden.
Okay, yep. All right, I'm actually gonna call on, I'm gonna go through the non-board members first. So I'm gonna call on Pat Courtney, then Mino Laura, and then Alexander Campos. And I'm gonna ask everybody to bear with me since I am taking notes. And I'm also going to ask people, Nobles, can you keep time? Do you have the ability to do that?
I do. Got my little phone here and we'll do.
Fantastic.
Is
So
1 minute or 2
everybody-
minutes? 2
everybody
minutes, right?
gets- Yeah, everybody gets a minute and a half to 2 minutes. So if you can set your timer for 1 minute and 45 seconds, when you hear the timer go off, you got 15 seconds left to wrap up. And if folks can do me the kindness of emailing a short summary, it makes it so much easier to just grab what you send me and drop it into the minutes. And that way I can really listen to you and not be taking notes. So
Would
with
you,
that,
can you tell them how you'd like
Pat
that
Courtney.
in bullet points or in paragraph form, Liz, just to
Yeah,
let them know. So
paragraph form or bullet points, you know, if you have a lot of bulleted items, pre-formatting them for me is great. If you've got 2 sentences of narrative, that's cool too. Oh, I have to allow Pat to talk. There we go. Pat Courtney. Pat, you can unmute yourself. How we doing?
How's that?
Great.
Okay. I'm here from Volunteers for Isham Park, which is, if you don't know the park, it's up connected to Inwood Hill Park in Inwood. And I just realized, and I've known all for quite some time, that Isham Park is about to celebrate its 110th anniversary. It was originally celebrated on September 28th, 1912. And so 2022 is its 110th birthday. It has served New York City through 2 pandemics, probably one of the few parks that can make that claim. And so it just seemed really important to get it to your attention that Isham Park is turning 110.
Wow.
That's really my main. We, Volunteers for Isham Park has been a parks group, an ad hoc group since 2009. We generally do somewhere around 500 to 1,000 hours of parks backup for maintenance and picking up trash and gardening when possible. So that's who we are. And it's a small group, usually no more than 10 people get together. And more often it's just me and 2 or 3 or 4 other people. So thank you very much. And I hope you all visit Isham Park, which is up at Broadway near Isham Street. And it's a beautiful space.
Thank you. And I can't believe that the centennial was 10 years ago.
I know. And I
Yes.
wish we had an event to go with this, but because of the pandemic, it didn't seem right to do anything fancy except tell you about it.
No worries, no worries. She's looking good for 110. All right, Mino Laura.
Hello, everyone. Buenas noches. I'm Mino Laura. I'm the executive director of People's Theater Project, and just wanted to give some updates. I know I was here in the spring or early summer. So we have a survey, as many of you probably already know. We're building Inwood's first theater, New York City's first theater dedicated to immigrants. We have a survey out, so I will send that to you, Liz, that we would love a community input. We've been getting a lot of amazing responses, and it's really around what do you want the space to be called? What are the things you want in the space to exist as we're finalizing the design? So the last day of the survey is September 30th. So I'll make sure to share the link. It's in English and in Spanish, so it can be completed in both. So please complete it if you haven't already. And then for families, we have our
Speaking of families,
I know. Speaking of families, he will be enrolling. We have our pre-academy programs. These are free Saturday programs starting. It's 1 hour theater programs where the young artists create their own performances. It culminates in December and registration is open and we still have some spots available. The programs are at the Noma Studios at the United Palace. And I will send that link as well, but ptp.nyc is our website, or peoplestheaterproject.org, where you can find the registration form. It's a Google Doc, a Google form where you're able to complete it. Reina Erika Bonaparte, who is our program manager, will reach out to you as a family if you have any questions. So I'll share her contact information, Liz, as well as the registration link for our pre-academy programs. And we have some events coming up in the fall that I'll speak about in the October meeting that we hope a lot of you are able to join.
great. Paola, if you, hold on a second. If you are able to, when Mino sends an e-blast to the board with the survey link and the family programming registration link, if you're able to blast that out to the
You
community.
can forward any correspondence to anybody in the office. All staff members can send that out, definitely.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, next up, we have Alexander Campos from the Hispanic Society. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. I got to unmute people.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Liz. First of all, I want to let everybody know that we started our renovations of the main building, not the east building, the main building. We're putting an HVAC system in the Soroya Gallery, and we're doing the ventilation system in soft lighting in the main court. And we're also doing ADA lift from the Broadway terrace to the upper terrace. And so these are all things that started 2 weeks ago. We hope to have it all done by early January. Additionally, the American Academy of Arts and Letters and the Hispanic Society Museum and Library, along with Sugar Hill and Harlem Development Fund and other organizations, are hosting the Commissioner of Cultural Affairs for a town hall-like meeting for cultural organizations only. So it's really for directors of cultural organizations uptown. And by uptown, we're talking about 145th, 125th and above. So, all the way to Inwood. So it's kind of crossing over the border for this committee, but it's good. It's all uptown. And so it'll be the end of this month. And just to let you know, we have a whole slew of activities planned for Hispanic Heritage Month. This Saturday, we have 2 programs. We have a watercolor on the terrace. We also have at 2 o'clock. And at 5 o'clock, we have a gallery lecture on photographies in Spain related to our current watercolor exhibitions. The following Saturday, we have a gallery, we have a workshop with Ugando and Play. They're presenting 2 weekends in a row on the 24th, twice at 1 and 2, and again on Saturday, October 1st at 12 and 2. And then, continuing with the Hispanic Heritage Month, we're doing a travel journey bookmaking workshop on October 8th, and we're also doing a Mano Mano Mexican Culture Without Border is presenting a Day of the Dead on October 15th, which is the last weekend of our current exhibitions, American Travelers, the Watercolor Journey through Spain, Portugal, and Mexico.
Great.
So I'll be sending all this information to you, Liz.
Thank you.
And the 2 other announcements I made earlier. And thank you so much.
Thank you. And for folks who have not taken the opportunity to see that exhibition, I can't recommend it enough. It's just beautiful. So next up, we have Stephanie Caban from the Riverside Park Conservancy.
Hi, can y'all hear me? Thumbs up,
Yes.
thumbs down. Great, awesome. Hi, just really quickly wanted to introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Ashley Kavan. My pronouns are she, her, aya. I am the new North Park Outreach Coordinator for Riverside Park Conservancy. Really exciting, it's my second week. So just wanted to kind of introduce myself, even though you can't see my face, so sorry about that. But yeah, so just to let you know, Riverside Parks goes from 59th to 181st Street. And as the North Park Outreach Coordinator, my purview is 120th Street to 181st Street. So that does include West Harlem Piers, Fort Washington Park, the Little Red Lighthouse. And yeah, just wanted to say hello. Super excited to be a part of Riverside Park and a part of CB12. I'm originally born and raised from the Bronx. What? Let's go. But super excited to be a part of the Uptown crew. Yeah, and I dropped my email down in the Q&A. I don't know if anybody can see that, but would love to be a part of these meetings regularly every month. So yeah,
Great.
super. Yeah, have a great meeting all.
Thank you. So unfortunately, only the panelists can see the Q&A. So for the benefit of the public members, if people have questions about Riverside Park and wish to get in contact with Stephanie, it's Stephanie, that's STEPHANIE at Riverside Park NYC, which is all one word, .org. So thank you very much for that. Next up, we've got Trish Anderton.
Hi, all. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm navigating this on my phone at Broadway and Sherman. So one moment, just going to read this off of Slack. Okay, so Inwood Canoe Club concluded our open house season on Labor Day weekend. 700 guest paddlers joined us over 15 Sunday mornings throughout the summer. Of those, 223 came more than once, and nearly 60% live in CB12. This past weekend, the club voted in 13 new members, all of whom we got to know through open house and the prospective member events that our membership committee has been hosting since early spring. This was our first season offering free coaching classes to members of the public. Our certified paddle sports instructors led 7 small group kayaking fundamentals classes, each of which was at least 2 hours long. Over the summer, we also began ongoing partnerships with a number of community-based organizations, including Word Up Community Bookshop, Yay, joined us for a shoreline cleanup and hosted a children's story hour on the deck of the boathouse. We have another cleanup scheduled with them for late October. In early August, Heroes on the Hudson, a Wounded Warriors program organized by VA New York Harbor Healthcare System, returned to Inwood for a day of paddling, sailing, and other festivities. Curtis Zuniga, co-director of the Lenape Center, came to the boathouse in July for a public conversation about Lenape history and culture. Since then, we've been in touch with the center about partnering on other programs on and off the water for the public. Uptown Paddling, the nonprofit affiliated with ICC, hosted BioBus for a teen kayaking program and science education activities. And later this month, ICC is joining forces with We Bike NYC for a group bike ride and paddling outing for women and gender nonconforming people. There are several more youth programs in the pipeline while the water is still warm. Details next month. And as always, you can keep up with us at inwoodcanoenyc.org.
Fantastic. And can you just email me that
Will do.
to my CB12 address, which is lizritter.cb12m@gmail.org.
Got it.
.com. Gmail.org. Please. .org, .com. I can't keep all this in check. All right. Next up, we've got Barbara from the Riverside Inwood Neighborhood Garden.
All right, I just wanted to say many events are happening in the garden, but the garden is frequently open, and I encourage people just to come by and sit and enjoy the garden. We've been continuing since the spring on Thursday mornings at 11 in association with the New York Public Library Children's Story Hours, where we have stories and songs and clapping and puppets and so forth. So bring your children there. Garden work on Saturday mornings at 10. Bring your inner gardener and come on over. This coming Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning, yoga and meditation with Kai. And then stick around until noon. We're having our first ever dog rescue and adoption event. And so in association with Good Life Dog Rescue, we will tell people how they can foster dogs. There will be dogs that are available for adoption, and basically information on how one does dog rescue. And there will also be coffee. The October 8th will be the annual fall flea market, which is always vendors. If you're interested, get a hold of the Ring Garden. And then that's October 8th. And then at 5 o'clock, the member appreciation meeting and potluck will occur. And then middle of October, David Friend will be holding a sing and music event. And that will be on the thing. I also wanted to say every Monday and Tuesday, we have been hosting a group from a supportive living facility of challenged adults, and they come and get work experience in gardening and cleaning and weeding and raking, and that has been very, very successful for these challenged adults. And that's pretty much it so far. End of story. So come to the Ring. Lots happening.
Great, thank you. I'm seeing a comment on I'm seeing a question on the chat from somebody who wants clarification on Stephanie's email address. I'm just wondering if she's not, oh yeah, she's still on the Zoom here. So are you Stephanie.Caban@riversidepark.org or scaban@riversideparkny.org?
Neither of those. I'm just Stephanie@riversideparknyc.org. So Stephanie, STEPHANIE @riversideparknyc.org.
Okay, so Ira, whatever those two other emails are, they're no longer active, so you can delete them from your book and use what Stephanie just said. And the information, Shannon Richards is asking, how can I receive details about the dog adoption event? So Shannon, if you can please type your email address into the Q&A, Barbara can take that information and she will forward you a flyer.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Shannon, Shannon's email, great. So we've got
Okay, I'll pick it up. I'll
that,
look.
and thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Shannon, for promoting that event through your dog run community. See, this is what I love about this meeting. Everybody is communicating about their events. It's a lot of good networking. So I did receive an email from Martin Collins, who works at NOMA, and he asked me to make a quick announcement on his behalf because he was not able to attend this evening. Hashtag the Gram Uptown. That's THEGRAMUPTOWN. It's a virtual, visceral, social media sourced photography exhibition featuring the best uptown photographers on Instagram and highlighting the beauty, history, and vibrancy of uptown Manhattan. It's produced by the Uptown Collective and NOMA, and that exhibition will be on view in NOMA's gallery at 4140 Broadway, the United Palace, from October 2nd through to the end of December. To please, to enter, you can see their information in their current newsletter, which is available at www.nomanyc.org/newsletter. And you can also go to the NOMA website, nomanyc.org, for more information about NOMA's programs. I think I'm not seeing any other hands raised. So with that, I'll move to Jennifer Hoppa's programming report. And if you don't mind, I'm going to kill my video so I can eat dinner. You don't need to see me doing that.
Thank you, Liz. Sure. So we've got a lot going on in the parks. Summer isn't really over. And as we all learned during the pandemic, getting outside helps us physically, mentally, spiritually. So lots of fun things going on. This Saturday, September 17th from 1 to 3 is the Urban Park Rangers are giving a Highbridge Water Tower tour. It's first come, first served. You enter at 174th in Amsterdam and walk east towards the Bronx for the Water Tower Terrace. Want to call to everyone's attention that not only is there an upcoming big milestone for Isham Park of 110 years, the historic Highbridge will be celebrating its 175th anniversary. It's the city's oldest standing bridge. And the Parks Department will be collaborating with a lot of different community organizations on a season of celebration of that incredible milestone and the impact that the Highbridge has had on the development of the city in the past and on our present.
When is that?
The anniversary, it's the planning is just starting now. The date, I'm having a
So the actual date is like next year.
Yes. Yeah.
Got it.
Starting the planning for it, but we'll be kicking off events leading up to it to raise awareness on the September 24th, where the artist Mark Blair will be doing a Latin textiles participatory mural at 171 in Amsterdam, starting at 10 a.m. People can come out, families, people, individuals, to help with that. Monday, September 26th at 11 a.m., there will be a Little Amal walk over the historic Highbridge. Little Amal is actually a 12-foot tall puppet of a 10-year-old Syrian refugee girl. And she's been traveling the world since July 2021. And starting September 24th, or starting September 14th through October 2nd, she's been making trips around the 5 boroughs. And she's going to be crossing the Highbridge on Monday, September 26th. And Highbridge Voices and some other community groups and the Bronx Children's Museum are going to be working on outreach to get people to participate with that in that moment. So be on the lookout for all things Highbridge over the next several months, and I'll put in the chat the actual anniversary date. This Saturday, the Urban Park Rangers have an old growth forest outdoor skills survival workshop in Inwood Hill from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. The meeting point is Seaman and Isham Street. There'll be a drumming and flute concert by Tycoza on Saturday from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Enter the park also at Seaman and Isham. On Friday, September 23rd at 7 p.m., the Parks Department and the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment are going to have a screening of Encanto on the Amelia Gorman Memorial Plaza, starting at 7 p.m. If movies or concerts or mural making isn't your thing and you want to learn photography, the Fort Tryon Park Trust is having a landscape photography workshop at Inwood Hill Park, our sister park, on Saturday, September 24th at 10 a.m. Meet at the Seaman Isham entrance to Inwood Hill Park. And Saturdays at Highbridge Park, sorry, I left this out. Every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., there are free baseball clinics for kids aged 9 to 14. And we meet on the 174th Street in Amsterdam field for that. And last but not least, Sunday, October 2nd is the Medieval Festival. The Washington Heights Mainwood Development Corporation is the Parks Department's partner in putting that on. They are still accepting applications for performers, food, and craft vendors until September 25th. I know Isidro from the community board has helped put out flyers. Different groups have been trying to get the word out. But go on the whidc.org, click on the Medieval Festival page, and you can apply to show your wares, if you're an artist or performer and you want to get involved in that, or sell food. That's it on events. Any questions on those events? And I'll send this to Liz doing the minutes.
Well, I have a quick question. What day is that mural project on 171 in Amsterdam?
It's not a permanent mural. Did you come to Fort Tryon last year for the 9/11 commemorative event? It's a masking tape mural, so it's done as a special event. It's like a one-day thing.
Oh yeah, I remember. I saw pictures of that somewhere.
Yeah.
I wasn't there to see that, but I don't know if I have the time. I would like to go check that out.
Yes,
I just want to know
fabulous.
what day that is.
Yeah, she's a Colombian American artist, and this project is going to center on textiles of Latin America.
Nice. What day was that again?
That's going to be September 24th, Saturday, starting at 10 a.m. at 171st in Amsterdam.
171 in Amsterdam.
You'll be able
Okay,
to
cool.
see it. It'll be right on the Highbridge Park perimeter.
Okay, awesome.
I actually do have a question about the Medieval Festival, Jennifer.
Sure.
So when it comes to performers, I'm assuming that there needs to be the theme of medieval to performers or not?
Yes. So yes, good question, Noble. Sorry. If you go on the whidc.org website, the selection parameters are there. Yes, to the full extent possible, we want things to be medieval themed, but in the past we found ways to make it work. Evident Dentistry is a local dentist. She has a medieval dentistry exhibit as part of her contribution to the event, and shows different images of procedures, things like that. Other people we provide costumes for. So
I have a quick question again. How do you, is there still time to become a vendor?
yes, there is till September 25th. So whidc.org.
WHIBC?
D as in David, C as in cat.org. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a Medieval Festival page, and it's got vendors, performers, crafts, the parameters.
Okay, cool, awesome, thank you.
Sure. Can I move on to announcements now?
Yes, please.
Go for it.
So after a long distinguished career, Manhattan Parks Commissioner Bill Castro is moving on from Parks. And he's been beloved and has been an incredible leader and mentor, but he's moving on. And we, in his place, we have a new Manhattan Parks Commissioner, Anthony Perez. He's a former Parkie, a Bronx resident, and has worked for the Mayor's Fund, had worked for the Speaker of the City Council, has been on the board of EDC, has been the executive director of the Bronx Democratic Party. He's been the treasurer on his community board. He was a student trustee at his alma mater. He's all about community and building partnerships and bridge building. So we're excited to have him come on. starting next week. And he's very interested in Uptown, of course, and is excited for the big milestone for Highbridge as well. So you'll be hearing more about him in the coming weeks.
I know he's a busy guy, but if he is able to attend a community board, one of our meetings, particularly drop in by Zoom, we'd love to meet him.
Great, that's a great idea. Not so great announcement is, many of you have probably seen, the Department of Health is going to be baiting for rabies. We do have more rabies again, primarily in Staten Island and the Bronx and places in Queens. But the Department of Health and wildlife biologists are going to be distributing the baits, or like those ketchup looking packets that have the fish smelling stuff inside. So just that's gonna, they've already, they started Monday, September 12th, and they're gonna be doing it through the month of October. But just a reminder to all dog owners, because there have been rabies incidents, keep your dogs on leash. If they happen to ingest the bait packet, it will not cause long-term damage. They might end up vomiting, but it's not ideal. But the good news is there's no long-term health impacts on dogs. Nonetheless, we're advising people to keep their dogs on leash. God forbid a raccoon bite your dog and lose your dog to rabies. Should I move on to capital projects?
Yes, please.
I think we'll have more information probably about the Little Red Lighthouse. John Harold, my counterpart, who's the administrator for Washington Park in the Little Red Lighthouse area, is going to be on later for the capital project. So capital project, just some quick updates. The pathway work that was done in Inwood Hill Park is essentially complete. The contractor has some finishing touches. Parks is now working with the MTA, which oversees the Henry Hudson Bridge, on plans for some additional pathway upgrades in the forest. If you want to see some of the improvements in the forest, just want to reiterate that the Urban Park Rangers are going to be having 3 programs the rest of the month. If you're not familiar with the forest, it's a great way to learn and be led and experience, forest bathing, but also to see all the investments that are being made in the upgrades. Pathway work in Fort Tryon Park has begun. This is about a $1.425 million project. Fort Tryon has 8 miles of pathway. We haven't really had pathway money in probably 7 to 10 years. And as many of you have seen, several sections of path are collapsing.
I'm sorry, you said that work is starting when?
It started east of Margaret Corbin Drive. So the east side of the park along Broadway is currently closed between Broadway and Arden to Broadway and Dongan. And then the pathway that leads up from Dongan north of the dog run. I can send the map to the community board. There was some confusion about what areas and wayfinding during the construction. We've redirected the contractor and reminded him of our goal to keep it clear, or reminded her, sorry, her foreman is a man, the contractor's a woman, giving people more advance notice because the park's pathways are so circuitous. You don't know you're coming up on a dead end. So we've asked for better signage.
I'll put my hand down. Thank you very much, Jennifer.
We're excited about this work. Like I said, so many areas haven't received any capital funding forever. And the heavy storms we've had over the past 2 years have really done a number on the paths and caused a lot of bad erosion and edges of paths to collapse. There's obviously more to be done, and we're trying to get funding for that as well. But in the meantime, this is some good news. The Greenway, Liz, I wanted to answer your question. The Fort Washington West Side Greenway project schedule, contractor is order to work is expected between September 26th, the start date, but it's likely going to be a little bit closer to the middle of October. They have a window. The contractor will be permitted only non-rush hour lane closures as needed during construction was what the contractor was granted. They won't need to close down highway lanes every day. The permit closure windows are 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. during the day. And daytime closures are expected. The contractor's responsible for detour
And
signs.
that's northbound, not southbound, yes?
That is northbound, yes, yep. The contractor is responsible for detour signage, which is going to go up the first day that they begin mobilization. We've worked with the contractor to ensure that the 181st Street pedestrian bridge will always be open during construction. So what the contractor is going to do is to start work immediately north of the 181st Street pedestrian bridge going up to Dykeman Street. Many of you know who ride it or walk it. There are a lot of areas where it's ridiculously narrow. It was meant to be an interim greenway when it was done back in 2003. Somehow it's been permanent. We have no realignment of the highway has happened. So we're sort of stuck with that geometry for the time being. So that work will probably take, I think it's 3 months. And then that section of the greenway will reopen and the 181st Street Bridge will remain open. The contractor will then move to the area around 180th Street, south of the bridge, but they've designed a alternate route so you can still get downtown despite the work on the 180th Street area. So they've been very intentional, following all the community input to ensure the closure times are as minimized as possible and that 181st Street Bridge stays open for the duration of construction. Monsignor Kett, with the basketball season over.
Wait, hold on. Before you just move to Monsignor Kett, can you, I assume you did work with DOT. I'm getting a question about safe bikeways.
We began conversations. Yes, we began conversations with City DOT over a year ago, and more recently had renewed conversations with State DOT. I know several people in the community had asked for a highway lane closure permanently. That's not something that would be granted, and an alternate ramp costs $2 million. So based on that, and based on the analysis that even with any further traffic study, State DOT might not approve the ramps, given the limited budget of this retaining wall contract, which is what it is. The agency, the city decided it's in everyone's best interest for these repairs to go forward. If you've ridden the bike path, you know the sinkholes are only getting bigger, and they're having offspring. So where you have the subsidence, you're now having a new sinkhole, immediately north of it. So the work is already long overdue. So getting it done as quickly as possible was what was ultimately decided as the best course of action, given budget restrictions, time restrictions, and
Great.
funding restrictions.
Thank you. And just in the interest of complete transparency, I want to summarize that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 increasingly well, I'm not going to characterize these comments from a member of the public, Dr. Allegra Legrand, who is questioning bike safety. Will detour signage keep my kids from getting run over by a truck? It's lucky that Jennifer lives on 181st Street. Some of us live in Inwood. For the did Parks contract. She asked again a question that was already answered about contacting DOT. She questions if we would ride our bikes on Broadway 181st to Dykeman. She asked that question twice. I'm sorry, 3 times. So I just want people to know this is what we get in the chat. And for the record, I would like to state that I, A, live in Inwood, B, have a bicycle, C, in fact, do ride it on Broadway. from 181st Street to Dyckman Street.
I've seen
So,
you.
Jennifer, yeah, Jennifer, what else?
As
did
have I. And I rode the alternate route, and I did ride the roadway closure route, as did City DOT's bicycle pedestrian division over a year ago. It's not ideal. If we were getting federal transportation funds, if we had $5 million, a different approach would be taken, but this is just a retaining wall repair contract.
Great,
So,
thank you.
sure. Monsignor Kett is advancing, as many of you know. We had the contractor go to great lengths to keep the basketball court open while the rest of the site was already demolished. Dyckman Basketball League is done for the season. Demolition has begun on the basketball courts. Bathrooms are important to this community, and you all effectively advocated for the new pilot type of the
First one in the city.
First one in the city. We are waiting on some Department of Buildings demolition permits for the existing, 2-stall bathroom. So that will be demolished next. So just keeping you in the loop there. I'm sure many of you go by Ann Loftus Playground. And Barbara Fraser, I want to give you a big shout out because of a lot of your helpful input. The lighting is actually being upgraded, the park lighting.
Yes.
We were just going to do one additional safety light for the new half-court basketball, and then obviously the fountain lighting. DOT is having our contractor replace all the light poles with the new LED light poles. So that will cause some delay in the project, but ultimately it will be more sustainable. So that's good news. You heard about the Dyckman waterfront design, great input from fishermen, paddlers, boat club members. That presentation will probably be coming the beginning of November. And the 186th Street Courts is coming in October. Bennett Avenue Rock Face is another project that's essentially starting to mobilize. That project will have a lot of impact on the community. It's another needed project. We had the rock slide. Lots of engineering studies have been done. In order to prevent further rock slides, the contractor is going to be installing pins in that rock face. It's going to require essentially removing all parking from 190th Street to Fort Tryon Gardens, the apartment complex. So the contractor we can keep a travel lane, but the contractor will then have the space to mobilize to install these pins, and the public will be kept safe of any possible rock slides during construction. And that's expected to start any day now. And contractor put up some signs, they were all ripped down. They're going to be putting up more signs, but letters went to property owners, to the yeshiva that abuts Dyckman Rest, Bennett Rest, I'm sorry. I want to respect everybody's time because I know there are items. Are there any capital projects? We have several others that people have questions on, or?
I do.
I
Real
do as
quick,
well.
Dyckman Rest, the Dyckman Rest.
Where is it in the process?
Mm-hmm.
I think procurement has started. I will look it up.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Procurement is 9 months to a year. And then if we get good bids, then construction can start.
Okay. So we're thinking 2 years?
So we finished design. I'll look it up, Barbara.
Okay, later. Thank you.
And I just have two quick questions for you, Jen.
Sure.
When you were saying the pathway between like basically like Broadway to the yeshiva in a way, it's going to be shut down. You said there's going to be room for travel. That's walking travel, I'm assuming. That's still going to be safe for pedestrians.
Right. So the east side of the street will be the travel lane.
Okay, cool.
And the sidewalk on the east side of the street is going to remain open.
Okay, cool.
And to be clear, by travel lane, she means cars. So the roadway will not be closed to vehicles.
Oh,
It is
Wow.
so it is a one-way street that has
Yeah,
in some
I walk it every
parts,
day.
right, so you do, but maybe other people don't. So just for
Yeah,
people who
exactly.
are not familiar with the street, Bennett Avenue is a one-way southbound street that has, for the most part, parking on both sides. But when you're on Bennett Avenue from Broadway to that curve, there isn't parking on either side. And then around the curve, there isn't parking, but US Postal Service trucks frequently park there illegally. And then you've got the crosswalk where the 190th Street A train exit is. And then south of that, you have parking on both sides. What we're going to be losing temporarily is all of that parking on both sides, all the way down to like 192nd Street on
Oh,
the,
wow. Whoa.
yeah, on the east side of the street, and all the way down past Bennett Rest to the yeshiva on the west side of the street. So the bad news is it's a huge loss of parking, but that's a problem. You know, the rock face wall is a problem that needs to be fixed. The good news is this is a fairly short-lived project. I believe this phase of it is going to be 120 days. I mean, it's not great, but we're talking 4 months or less.
Thank you.
It's going to depend on what they encounter, but the goal is to get the area from 190th past the yeshiva, you know, done as quickly as possible. And then that parking will be returned, and then they'll continue northward towards the post office for the next part.
Okay.
Thanks, Jennifer.
And Parks has reached out to the post office?
No, we haven't, since they're parking illegally.
Yeah. And I just have one more question too. I just want to be respectful of time.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
sure.
I didn't want to rush this piece, but I totally got my answer. Folks, jump in on the chat if you have any other questions in regards to that, but I just want to keep the agenda moving. My second question has to deal with the pathways. I think that is a capital project still, so it's still within the question period here. But when we first had this conversation earlier with one of our previous sessions, we had discussed the northernmost pathway that goes down the hill from Fort Tryon. You said that you were going to look into possibly getting that as a piece of the project because it's so deteriorated and dangerous for women with strollers and other folks, of course.
Yeah.
Was there anything, were you able to get headway on that?
So because Ann Loftus is still going on, and we've got that whole construction fence along that side of the path, and because we're doing the Broadway promenade, they're not going to be able to do it as part of this contract. We have been working to get capital funding for that area and several other areas of the park. We recognize that that's the worst. It's totally the worst. You've got the glacial pothole, you have a natural spring or something, and it's like it keeps percolating up the whatever pavement repairs our borough crews do, so we
Well, thank you.
We are still trying to get the funding for that Nobles, and we agree it's one of the worst areas, but the Ann Loftus project sort of precluded.
Gotta have a place for the kids. Thanks.
Yeah, Jen, that my question then is also on the pathways. Last time I walked from a little bit south of Dongan, the pathway that goes through the shrubs and the trees up to the top. As you get about more than halfway up to the top, there's like little mini staircases, like 4 steps, and then it goes flat again, then like 4 steps. Those steps are very dangerous and deteriorated. Is that part of what will be the reconstruction?
This is solely a pathway contract. That's how they can do so much. Just like the retaining wall contracts, very limited scope. So unfortunately not, but we're trying to get private money for pathway upgrades in the park.
Because it's dangerous to walk that path.
It's really dangerous, yeah. And it's hard.
I'm going to stop this. I'm going to stop this right here because that's a great question, but that's appropriate for the end of the meeting and for next month when we're talking about capital priorities.
Okay.
And
All
we're
right. But it's
already
important to
40
know it's
minutes
not part of
behind.
this.
So, yep. I got one
Okay.
question, a comment in the chat that the water tower tour was awesome. Trish Anderton said she went last month. And Pat Courtney would like a quick update on the Isham retaining walls. Since
Sure.
the Isham Memorial Terrace is one of the damaged areas, it would be great to know it's going to be repaired soon. Also, the temporary repair of the alley wall at the south entrance has been accomplished, which was a great effort.
Sure. So yes, the mason was able to do some interim repairs on the alley, which was fabulous. But the alley and the area up on the memorial are part of a larger citywide retaining wall project this committee weighed in on. Design is being finalized for that. It will also include J. Hood Wright and the Dorothy McGowan Garden in several areas of the Bronx and a portion of Inwood Hill Park. After design is finished, it'll be going through the procurement process, which usually takes 9 months to 12 months. And then if bids are good, it will be going into construction. So probably May 2024.
For completion?
For construction start.
Oof.
It's required to go through the capital project process.
Okay. If you could just include that brief summary in your notes to me would be
Sure.
fantastic.
And Barbara, the Dykeman Rest is expected to go into construction in end of procurement in May. So
Oh, okay.
should start next summer if we get good bids.
Okay. And 9 months to build?
I would say 12 months to build.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was a longer report than I anticipated, but that was super helpful. I've got two, I think Pat Courtney's question was answered. And I am moving on to the next agenda item, which is a brief update from the Audubon mural project, Avi Gittler.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Terrific. I'm just going to quickly, let's do this. I'm going to share my screen. Nice to see you all. I will be very brief. Of course, I have to start with a joke. So my bad joke is that I'm going to transition from turkey legs being sold at the medieval festival, which we talked about, to turkey paintings. So it's 8 years now that we've been working on the Audubon mural project. This is a map of I should introduce myself. I'm Avi Gittler. I'm co-founder of the Audubon mural project, originally from Washington Heights. I co-founded with the National Audubon Society the Audubon mural project 8 years ago now, where we're painting climate-threatened birds. Primarily in Upper Manhattan. This is a basic map of the birds that we've painted. If I were to zoom in, it's a PowerPoint, so I can't, but if I were to zoom in, you'd see that there are a dozen birds in some particular places. We've painted, I think, about 100 murals or done about 100 installations over the last 8 years. And the project continues as it has the last 8 years. We have tours that are offered by the National Audubon Society's New York City affiliate, New York City Audubon. There are various schools, interestingly, not just in New York, but even around the country, that are using the mural project as a platform to teach about a variety of subjects, whether that's environmental science, climate justice, birds, nature, art, of course. The project's sort of gone in a lot of different directions from the way we originally envisioned it years ago. One of the interesting developments, which many of you, including people who I've spoken to many times who are on this chat, may not be aware of, is the fact that there was so much interest in the project and bringing it to other places that we created a toolkit. And this might come as a surprise, but there are actually now Audubon murals in many parts of the country. So murals in Chicago, murals in Rockford, Illinois, more murals in Illinois. It seems to be a very popular project in Illinois. Again, more in another part of Illinois, Evanston, Illinois, in Vashon Island in Washington State. And, you can see these are all actually, for those who are interested, all the birds you're seeing depicted in these murals outside of our core territory in Upper Manhattan, in Harlem, in Washington Heights, Inwood. For now, these are all locally threatened climate species. It's been sort of interesting. I'm not going to take up too much time and digress too much, but it's been sort of interesting to see people take the project and put their own stamp on it. So it started as sort of a project about birds. And as my partners always say, what's good for birds are good for people. Protecting habitat is good for everyone and everything, but it's been sort of interesting to see people take the project and as I said, put their own stamp on it, depicting not just avian species, but other species. And believe it or not, the project has actually expanded to other countries. So this is in the south of France, in Marseille, and then more birds in France, in Le Mur de Audubon, the Audubon walls. But to come back uptown, through 2021, this was painted much earlier on by Snowman, who, if you live in New York City, and definitely if you live uptown, you can't miss him. He is everywhere. And I feel like every bodega has been touched by Snowman. I actually love his work, but that's a conversation for another time. Bluster One, this was painted actually in early 2021. He was thinking a little about COVID and wanted to share, the words of Bob Marley, that every little thing going to be all right. This is higher up. It's actually a little bit of a tribute to a particular teacher, Jared Fox, who's an outstanding science teacher on 183rd. I'm just scrolling through some of the things that we've done really in 2021 and 2022, just a little bit of an update. And some of you will have seen some of these, and some might not have seen other. Carla Torres painted this mural, Migration is an Earth Right, strangely before the war in the Ukraine, in Ukrainian colors, which sort of makes it feel even more poignant than it already is. But it's a very, very special mural that she painted. I think everyone uptown knows Dister. We hadn't worked with Dister before, so finally got him to paint a mural, which some of you may have seen. This is about 9 feet in the air. It's not the best photo, but this is on like a little grate, I think on 175th, just west of Broadway. This has been up for a couple of years, Totems, but he painted another one, the rough-legged hawk. We had our first non-representational mural. Many of you have seen the mosaic at 163rd by Carlos Pinto and John Sear. I know I was definitely there when Liz herself came and adhered a couple of the broken tiles to the wall. And of all the, I will say, not to play favorites, but of all the projects we've done as part of this project, the one at 163rd is my favorite, if I'm allowed to choose favorites. But I'm very proud of this one also. I don't think anybody who's on this particular call had their hands cast, but all the glass that was used in this mural and mosaic actually comes from Highbridge Park, interestingly enough. Another seg between me and Jennifer Hoppe, but Jessica Mafia was the artist. She has her studio on 162nd, and she was really inspired by Carlos and John's mosaic. She wanted to create a spectrogram that's the visual representation of a bird song. And she collected the glass from Highbridge Park with volunteers, some of whom were students. I'm forgetting the school at 183rd. I'm just having a moment at the, it'll come to me after, as soon as I'm done speaking. What's at Wheels? Thank you. Yeah, some of the students at Wheels helped her. And so she cleaned all the glass that she pulled out of the ground from Highbridge and created that. And it's actually, I wish there were more of these, but it's because it's such a confusing piece. It's the first piece in which we've actually placed a plaque with a proper explanation. There's also a land acknowledgement on the plaque, which is a first for us, but it is also our first plaque. And I just want to mention that the cast hands are hands cast of various personalities uptown who are involved in environmental justice. So I don't know who the particular hands are, but we'll leave that for another time. This is pretty recent, A Snowy Owl by Mike Fernandez, I think on 162, might be 163. This is on St. Nick and 156. It's a very close-up shot, the long-tailed Jaeger by Jesus Medina. This is part of a project, just for maybe 3 more minutes, but this is part of a project that was executed by Creative Artworks, along with a series of parapet walls that were painted in Jacob Schiff Park, of the adjacent Jacob Schiff Park from PS 192. And they recently painted, these are just a couple of very basic photos in Montefiore Square, this massive mural. We were really just in a minor support role. I can take a lot of credit for a lot of things that were shown before here, but I cannot here. But I'm just sharing it because it's some of the recent work that we're involved in. And they did really an extraordinary job. This is a mural that it was painted maybe 5 years ago on 147th between Broadway and Amsterdam. That's the artist Giro Lozano. We've been in talks. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with this wall, which is a south-facing wall on Broadway and 162, the Tuck It Away wall. Like many of you, I am definitely somewhat charmed by the cute squirrel and the cute ad, no doubt. But as we've been talking to to various partners, including the landlord that owns this building, it's become clear that they're going to be doing some work on this wall. And so this wall is very likely going to get painted. And so I showed Jira for a reason. Jira's partner is an artist named Work. He's a Mexican-American artist who's New York based, though he doesn't live uptown. He does live in Brooklyn. He makes absolutely beautiful, extraordinary work. It's very serious work. We're waiting for a design from him. We actually received funding from a foundation to paint this wall. I am hoping it will get painted this year, but as it's getting tight. So that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to come on, was to mention about this particular wall that I'm hoping is going to get painted, and it may happen faster rather than slower. So if we have a design, I'm really happy to email the members of the board with the design to let them know what the plan is. I mean, there are more projects that we've done, but I just kind of wanted to give a very basic, very quick state of the union. Yumi, who works with me, who was a muralist on 162nd, who sort of has become a co-producer with me. She couldn't join tonight, but she's been on here and there, I think mostly in a listening role on a bunch of previous meetings. But yeah, I don't know if I have time, if I'm allowed any questions, but I just wanted to give a very basic update with what's going on.
We're running so late that I really want to not do a lot of questions. Can you just clarify, where would the mural that you showed that might be happening this year, where would that be?
Yeah, that's I didn't mention any small scale murals, like little things that we're doing, small interventions.
No, the small scale murals, that large scale mural would possibly be.
Yeah,
where?
that's on Broadway, facing south between 162nd. I have to close my eyes to think. It's funny. Between 162nd and 161st. I don't think it's between 163 and 162. I think it's 162 and 161.
Oh, Coach Dave's corner. Okay.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, I think it's right there. Yeah.
So do you anticipate any community concerns, traffic issues, or just that's a heads up?
No, all the large scale murals, which I think is 8 to date, only one of which has been removed, the one on 163rd, east of St. Nick. There was some water damage in the building, not caused by the mural, and so the landlord whitewashed it. For all of those, we've used an articulating boom lift with DOT permits to park the boom lift on the street. In this case, because of the slope of Broadway, we'd be using a swing stage, no aerial scaffolding. So there would really be no interruptions, because it would be no different than if a building were being repointed and regular work was being done.
Okay.
So,
Danny, you've got a question?
Not a question. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Yes.
Just an acknowledgement for Avi. I think it's pretty cool the work that he's doing. I think I did speak with you a while back ago. Just even about doing one of those walls with you. I was definitely busy. But I just want to acknowledge that the work that you're doing is pretty cool. Definitely keep up the good work. Administrative work sucks as an artist. So I kind of like know more or less like what you're going through. So, but I think it's cool that you're doing that, and I definitely would like to try to maybe get a mural with you guys. Like that'd be cool.
I love you. Not to waste your time. I love your work. I'm a big fan. So we've been in touch. So, and I think Yumi's been in touch with you also. I'll shoot you a message afterwards, because I actually have a little space that's ready to go if you want, and we can talk about something bigger later on. But
yeah, that'd be cool.
And thank you for your words. I have like a tear in my eye, because I thought I was getting into art, but I'm in administration. So we'll get beers another time to discuss it.
Yeah.
Ira Gershenhorn says a great slideshow of the bird murals. I heartily agree. Steve, do you have a burning question related to this project, or can we move the agenda because we are way behind?
Yeah, very quick, because I certainly want to get to another presentation. Avi, I've said this before. You deserve an award for this work.
Yeah.
But could you quickly show us the slide with the tuck it away wall?
Yes, of course. Bear with me one moment.
There's an apartment building on 161st Street, catty-cornered. Yeah, can you above the bakery sign, that big white building? Have you tried going after that wall?
The biggest administrative task of this project, I would say, has been, beside raising money, has been figuring out who owns what building and getting permission.
I'll find out.
Yeah. And I should say, we're always looking for spaces. We really, in the beginning, we were painting a lot more gates. We're really not, because we've really eliminated, and Danny, we could talk about this afterwards, but we've really eliminated aerosol. So we're really trying not to paint with spray paint, to be not anathema to an environmental project. So we're really brush painting, but we're always looking for spaces. And
that wall seems like it's meant for you.
Okay, I'd love for you guys to continue this conversation offline.
Okay.
Steve, if
Okay.
you've got a way of
Yes.
figuring out,
Yes.
that would be fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Before we move to the next agenda item, which is the Morris Jamel Mansion presentation, I just want to acknowledge our newest member, Luana Ferreira, who's been on the call for quite a while. It's not that she just got here, it's that I just realized that, oh, you're here. So in the same way that
my apologies. I thought it was at 7, but now I know it's 6:30. That's the time, right?
Yes, it's usually at 6:30. So no
Thank you.
worries. Welcome.
Won't happen
welcome.
again, but thank you so much. Pleasure to be here, everybody. Welcome.
And if you want to just give us 30 seconds about what brings you to the board and this committee.
51 years of my life living in Inwood, next to the church where I did my first communion, across the street from the library where I got my first library card, 2 blocks from Payson Preschool, where yours truly attended. That's what brings me, the commitment to being in my community, staying here and serving everybody, and being one of the last standing native Manhattanites, or, Washington Heightans, whatever it is that they're calling us, but happy to be here. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you so much. Glad to have you. So next up, we've got Shiloh Holly.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Shiloh Holly. I'm the Executive Director of the Morris Jamel Mansion. Tonight's bittersweet because unfortunately it's my last meeting attending in this capacity because the mansion's new executive director, Catherine Hughes, who is actually on the phone tonight, will be joining the team in early October. So first of all, I wanted to highlight a few of our upcoming programs. We have our next Con Ed Family Day. It's a Day of the Dead activity on October 8th. From 12 to 2, followed by an outdoor patio concert with Annette Aguilar and friends from 2:30 to 3:30. Both of those will hopefully be outdoor activities in the park. That same weekend, October 8th and 9th, we are participating in New York State's Path Through History weekend, where we will have 2 specialty tours. And then the following weekend, we are celebrating our completion of our National Endowment for the Humanities funded project, Living Landscape, with a poetry reading with a few uptown poets. It's called Writing the Land. It's October 15th from 1 to 4 p.m. Again, if the weather cooperates, it'll be in the park. If not, our rain location is up the street at Alianza Dominicana. So thanks everyone for your support over the mansion over the past few years, especially as we look forward to the construction project of our current capital project for exterior restoration and barrier-free ramp access to the first floor of the museum. And we anticipate this work beginning in the fall of 2023. We just had some recent light construction work in preparation for the larger project happening next year. However, as many members of this committee and members of the public know, additional funding is needed to ensure the safety, security, and preservation of the 1765 building. So I'm here today to raise awareness of some critical needs at the mansion, including the need for safety and architectural lighting at the site, of which we currently have none except one floodlight on the east side of the building, and the need for security cameras. Over the past few months, there have been increased incidents of concern that have threatened the safety of our staff and parks visitors, and the presence of these critical safety mechanisms are essential. Moreover, additional structural work is needed beyond the current capital project to the house and grounds to ensure that the building is saved for future generations. In addition to the needs for landscaping, including some of the pavers in the park, which present some safety and accessibility issues. There's also a need to assess and repair the basement retaining wall and address the concerning level of water entering the building every time it rains, or even just due to general water settling. Which that project would likely mean a full basement waterproofing project. So we are currently in the process of working with the Parks Department to determine the scope of these needs, but we would appreciate the ongoing support of this historic building and hope that you guys will keep this in mind as you continue to prioritize expense and capital expense funding for fiscal year 2024 and beyond. So happy to have any questions if there are any. But again, thank you so much, and hope that we can all work together and with the Parks Department to ensure that we're able to save the building for future generations.
Thank you, Shiloh. You'll be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Noble.
Yeah, I do want to thank you for the work that you've done at the mansion over your time there, and to wish you the very best in whatever is ahead for you. And since, although the meeting itself is running behind, this segment took significantly less time than I thought it would. So I'm happy to give you, Catherine, a short period of time if you want to just give us a little bit of information about your background, and so that we can welcome you to the community and to the committee.
Am I?
Yeah, we can hear you
now. Okay, sure. Thank you for the opportunity. I am coming to New York from Indiana. So it'll be a big shift, but I am very excited to take on the role of executive director at the Morris Jamel House, and to also be a part of what will be a really incredible restoration of this very important place. I am coming from another historic house here in Indiana, but much, much newer, 1890. So I'm really looking forward to the challenges that the Morris Jamel House and the opportunities that it will bring. So thank you. I have been interested to learn all about what is happening in the neighborhood.
Cool. Well, welcome. Yeah, not a lot of stuff from the 18th century in Indiana.
No, no, not.
But welcome. That's excellent. And thank you, Shiloh, for that very specific walk through some of your needs. And we'll circle back to this at the end of the meeting when we talk a little bit about our capital and expense budget priorities. But one of the things we do at this meeting is sort of remind ourselves of conversations like this one so that we can be mindful that in addition to whatever our priorities were last year, we can remove the things that have gotten funded. We add things that have, and we add things that have come up over the year in conversations like this one. So it's really nice to have a clear sense of what is it that we might be looking for to prioritize in a project, as opposed to this vague, undifferentiated, well, you know, it's really old and there are issues. So, you know, that was a very clear, like, we need this, we need this, we need that, we need the other thing. And as soon as you have any sense of what that scope might be, it would be helpful to share it with us.
Yeah, we're
So-
hoping that in October, the Parks Department and Capital Division will be coming out to start their preliminary scoping to have some more concrete numbers.
Great. We love concrete numbers. They're my favorite kind. So, all right, moving on. It's 8:06. I would like to, whoops, just got a little water on my notes, and I realized I am taking notes with a magic marker that is not water friendly. All right, moving my beverage to the other side. 8:06. Next up, we've got presentation by Parks Capital Division on the construction of a comfort station at Fort Washington Park Discovery Playground. I'm going to turn it over first to Steve Simon, who is a member of the board, but his day job is he's the chief of staff to the borough commissioner of the Parks Department, so he can give us a little bit of background, which is particularly important for the benefit of folks who may be unfamiliar with this project. I do remember standing in the bitter cold when we did the scoping project for the Discovery Playground. It was a long time ago, but it was like December 30th or something, and it was really cold. And I loved the project, but the one thing I didn't love about it is there was no bathroom. So I'm really stoked about a bathroom. Steve?
Thank you, Liz. I think, as you have suggested, this is a long-awaited addition to the park. This is, for those of you who don't know Fort Washington Park, it's maybe one of the undiscovered places in Manhattan for many people, right along the river. It's from about 155th Street up to and beyond the George Washington Bridge. Actually, it technically goes all the way up to Dyckman Street, but it has amazing views of the river. You can get right up to the river. In fact, you can touch the water in certain places. It's got the Little Red Lighthouse. It's got and what we did in the Bloomberg administration is we constructed a new playground, which we call Discovery Playground, ball fields, volleyball courts, picnic areas, improve the section of the Greenway towards the southern end of the park, around between 158th and 165th Streets. And what was to be included at that time was a comfort station, and space had been set aside for it, but it fell victim to a budget cut. And I don't think we ever thought it was going to take this long to come back to that point and to provide what was an absolute necessity for people who are going down to the river, to this park. And we're very grateful that Mark Levine, before he left his council seat and became borough president, secured the funding so that we could have this comfort station. We believe we have found a way to we have found a type of comfort station that would be suitable for the park, because realize there's a complication with the fact that there are no utility lines. There's no there's no sewer connection. So we're going to our project manager, Chad McNeil from our architecture division, will explain the type of facility that we have in mind. But it will provide both public restrooms, and it will provide some space for our maintenance workers to work out of, so that they can help to better maintain this park. So if I can turn it over to Chad so that he can do his presentation. Appreciate the fact that you're giving us time, and hopefully we'll favorably consider this proposal. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay, great. I'll share my screen. Let's see if I can zoom out here. Okay, so I hope everybody can see this okay. So thank you, Steve, for the introduction. My name is Chad McNeil. I'm project manager at Parks in the Capital Division in the Architecture Department.
Chad, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt, but
Please do.
just so that I can, will you be able to send me this deck so that I can, don't have to take such copious notes?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do that tomorrow.
Great. Tomorrow's fine. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, so the comfort station is going to be proposed to be located in Fort Washington Park, just south of the Discovery Playground, as Steve had mentioned, near Cross Street, around 163rd Street. I'll speak briefly about a few of the goals of the project, primarily one being constructing a new comfort station in a vastly underserved area of the park that has no current restroom facilities. And two is to locate this comfort station outside of the New York State Department of Conservation jurisdictional area. So we all know that the park is right next to the Hudson River, and in order to avoid a very lengthy permitting process and regulatory burden, we are locating the comfort station outside of their area, and this is determined through conversations with the DEC over the spring and early summer. We're going to utilize modular construction in order to minimize the disruptions to the park during construction. And for those who may be not so familiar with what modular construction is, essentially is the building will be constructed off-site in a factory, and will be shipped to the site, and the foundation will be constructed on site. Then once the foundation is complete, the building will be trucked in and craned in place. And what that does is minimize the duration of the duration that the construction activity will be on site. So, just lessens disruptions to park users. And last point is the fact that Steve mentioned there's no sewer connection here. So we're going to be constructing a sewage holding tank system as part of the park project, comfort station project. So for those maybe not as familiar exactly where Discovery Playground is located, like I said, around 163rd Street in Fort Washington Park. One thing to draw attention to, part of our standard analysis is looking at the flood risks to our projects, and noting that we're projecting the site is on a little island in the future floodplains. And one thing to note is that the base flood elevation in this area is about 16 feet. We're proposing that the finished floor of the building will be about 21 feet in elevation, so outside of the flood zone. And surrounding land use, just for all of you to kind of, again, familiarize yourselves, it's just south of the hospital, and there's mixed multifamily residential in the area. Another standard slide that we tend to present is some of the adjacent parks in the area. I know this, I don't need to go too in detail here. What I will speak about for a few minutes is this slide here. So to the left of your screen is north. And where we're proposing to build this comfort station is in between the Discovery Playground and the picnic areas and volleyball courts to the south. And what we intended to do is to put this in a location that's essentially located as we could to all of the activities and facilities that this park has. So the ball fields, soccer fields, the playground, the greenway, and picnic area and volleyball courts. And note that, there's a few points of access to this comfort station. So Riverside Park Conservancy has told us that, this area gets a lot of traffic, and this is a desperately needed comfort station, as I'm sure you're all aware. What this slide shows here is it's a tree inventory. And the green circles with the red X's are trees that we're proposing in a worst possible case scenario that may need to be removed as part of this project. But our goal is always to limit tree removals, and if that is necessary, to offer replacements as part of the project, and also restitution that other parts of the park and borough would get additional trees. And so here's two images to kind of show you the proposed location. You can see there's picnic tables in the area. We'll be removing some of those picnic tables and replacing those with new, including ADA accessible picnic tables. And then again, the site is, if you look at image number 2, the site is just south of the south gate of the Discovery Playground, which is important, and I'll discuss that a little bit later. And then 2 images, number 1 showing another view looking south at where the comfort station is proposed to be located. Some contextual images for you all, a couple images of the Discovery Playground showing current conditions as of this spring. This slide here, a little heavy graphic, I apologize, but what this shows is an analysis that was done by our landscape architecture team, looking at pedestrian movement, vehicular movement, and bike movement through the area. So vehicular movement is mostly maintenance vehicles, not only the parks, but also Amtrak and the Triborough Bridge, the TBTA, because of the service area needed for the George Washington Bridge. So they utilize this roadway. And then if you look at the red line running north and south, Discovery Playground would be at the top of your image, the picnic area to the south. So there is a direct north-south correlation and movement pattern of people between the picnic area and the playground.
Chad, it's actually the Port Authority.
The Port Authority, okay.
That
Thank you,
runs
Steve.
up and down to the bridge.
You're right about that. I do remember seeing that on the vehicles. I misspoke. I apologize for that. So this next slide is a concept site plan, citing the location of the comfort station. And
Sorry, can you go back a slide for a second? I was just looking at the RPZ. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yep.
Thank
We'll
you.
be implementing a new RPZ for the comfort station. It'll be separate from the water feed that serves the playground.
Okay.
Okay, so getting back to this concept slide. So a couple of, again, apologize for the heavy graphics, but we're trying to consolidate a lot of information on one screen for you all. So we're looking at placing the comfort station, like I said, in the current picnic area. It's kind of the green block. We'll see that the roof is, we're proposing a green roof. And the primary aspect of locating this comfort station where we did is to create and provide sight lines from the playground users with looking at the entrance to the comfort station. So parents who might have multiple children, could be in the playground and see their child cross the street if necessary. We are also showing a proposed bike rack for the bike traffic that's very heavily used in this area, proposing a rain garden to capture runoff from the roof. Relocating the picnic areas, the picnic tables, and providing, again, ADA accessible tables, which there are none in this current area. And lastly, because of the fact that Steve mentioned, again, there is no sewage connection here. So a sewage truck has to come and service the building. So we're providing a independent parking area away from any vehicular and pedestrian movements where that truck could be located during service. And the kind of the gray lines are just a map showing a possible movement of how the truck would enter and exit the facility. I'm going to speak a little bit on the comfort station itself. Again, what we're proposing is a modular comfort station, and the modular being the reason for that on this park is the remote location of this site and the fact that again, to minimize the duration of construction. And so this is one of our standard parks comfort stations, 2 restrooms with the central maintenance and mechanical space. So the modules will come, actually this comfort station will be delivered in 3 parts. And this is the second iteration of a prototype that's currently under construction in Staten Island. So this will be the second project, and ideally there'll be several more. A couple images just showing the roof plan and the showing that we're having a green roof and skylights to add to daylighting and lower their energy use to the comfort station. So the next 2 pages are just elevations of the comfort station. They're grayed out. Right now we're working with PDC and internal design to figure out final colors of the comfort station. What was proposed and presented to PDC with the prototype is a glazed tile, which is great for maintenance and durability, in a striped pattern with a couple different colors, trying to make it site specific. So we're finalizing the colors, and I'll touch on that on a later slide. But image number 2, the front of the comfort station, all 3 doors. So both doors of the restrooms and the door to the maintenance are all on the same facade, along with the drinking fountain. So it's really, speaks to the safety of users for the comfort station, everything being located in one face. And then you can see image number 1, 3 squares here are actually windows. So each restroom will have windows with security screens and a level of opacity to the glass. So people standing outside will not be able to see inside the comfort station, will not be able to notice there's actually even users in there, but it will allow some daylight to come in. And then kind of below grade, you'll see the dashed lines, just kind of showing the relationship of the sewage system, I should say, being located beneath the comfort station, which is a challenge for us, but provides, which will allow for holding tank for several days of use at the comfort station. And rear and another side elevation. Getting down to our last couple of slides here. So materials, stainless steel throughout. And what that is, it provides us with a low maintenance and highly durable finish, which is pretty standard for all of our comfort stations now throughout New York City. And on the left, you'll see 3 colors, red, orange, yellowish, and whitish. So like I said, we had already presented to the Public Design Commission a prototype project, and they selected a few colorways that we're proceeding with. So this is still very much in design, trying to figure out the final color pattern, working with PDC. But the idea is to contextualize the building, each site, and utilize some existing colors. Some additional finishes, again, maybe to point to your lower left, is the schematic of the vegetated roof system, which is great in going on all of our comfort stations. And finally, a schematic rendering of what the building might look like at the site. Again, the comfort station building itself, the colorway is grayed out because the final colors are still in process. One thing PDC has said is the striped pattern they're not a big fan of, so we'll be reducing this striated look. And also note that the tree to the far left is one that likely will have to be removed to allow for the truck parking for service. That is the end of the presentation. I'm glad to hear any questions any of you may have at this point.
Thank you. Before I take questions, I just have a couple of clarifications. I'm perplexed by red as a color, that seems kind of loud. So I'm not surprised if the PDC doesn't love it. I would assume that you would go with something that's a little bit more muted and that might reflect sort of natural tones, not necessarily green because there aren't always leaves on the trees, particularly if you're removing some trees. But if you could talk a little bit about what some of your other color options might be, what you might do instead of striping, because I certainly understand why the PDC doesn't love it. If you can talk a little bit about the water recapture, you mentioned something about water recapture. I didn't quite understand that. And if you could tell us where the trees, I understand that you will need to take some trees down, and that's unfortunate because they do provide shade, but if you can talk a little bit about where replacement trees would go, and very specifically on the water fountain feature, we've had lots of conversations in this committee about different water fountain features. So since you're adding it for the first time, obviously you've got two features with two different heights, but I'm not seeing a bottle filler, and that would be really useful. If it's there and I'm missing it, let me know. If it's not there, if you could add it. And as long as you're adding a totally new feature, if you could also include something at the lowest level for dogs, because there are plenty of people walking their dogs, and I'm not a plumbing expert, but it seems to me that adding that feature isn't going to be a huge expense given where it's mounted. I also just operationally am curious. You noted that the holding tank would be big enough for a couple of days. If we could get some specifics around what exactly do you mean by a couple of days, and what's the operational plan B if for whatever reason the removal process doesn't go according to plan? Because I can see, at the risk, I don't want to be graphic, but I can see all kinds of ways for that to go terribly wrong. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. I'll kind of go, well, first I'll tackle the easy two first. So as far as your the water fountain feature, I will go back. We did include a bottle filler. It's standard on all of our comfort stations now. We have the high-low water fountain that has the bottle filler. Again, it meets ADA requirements and speaks to the current nature of people using water bottles, right, to refill. As far as adding a little dog fountain, we can take a look into that. I believe some of our landscape projects have added little basins for dogs in and around, so that's something I can definitely take a look at. Speaking of, so the big question regarding the colors, so one of the other options that PDC allows us to do is to do a solid color. What we had spoken about is along the red colorway, like a much darker red. And the reason for that is, again, contextually, some of the colors in the Discovery Playground, there's some reds, there's some oranges and things like that. And again, PDC has given us a pre-approval on 4 or 5 different colors, and this is the most earth tone. The current one I'm building in Staten Island is mostly blues. So, but I do, your interest in more muted colors is shared with PDC and in the agency itself also. Again, which is one of the reasons why we kind of shared a grayed out photo here. Because it's still very much in development and we're going through a couple of iterations internally. So we will definitely take your advice on some different color schemes. Regarding, I'll skip back a few. So regarding the rain garden, so one of the primary goals of all of our projects, especially when it comes to landscape architecture and landscapes, is to reduce water runoff, and especially because of where we are located, right adjacent to the Hudson. We're in an area where storm runoff has to be addressed. And so we have this rain garden is an idea to capture the stormwater runoff from the roof. And contextually, we already have it on the project near the volleyball courts. There's, I think there's 2 rain gardens separating the volleyball courts. So we would have the roof and potentially the asphalt. We're hoping to use a porous asphalt, but I've heard that the DOT doesn't like that so much, and maybe, so we're looking at, there's a few different options. We're looking at that. So that's the use for the rain garden, is to capture the roof storm runoff and minimize any damage to surrounding landscape. And then the holding tank. So this is a big question mark that we have been spending quite a bit of time on. So, you know, we worked with Riverside Park Conservancy on their estimated number of users that the park receives on, you know, summer weekends versus the winter and everything in between. And you know, we're kind of limited in what is available commercially, like for sewage tanks. I mean, they can actually get, we're not really limited. They can get actually quite large, but we're trying to, you know, minimize their footprint. So what we're looking at is, you know, something in the range of you know, 4,000 or 5,000 gallon tanks, a couple of them located underneath the comfort station. And so we're, you know, like I said, we're still finalizing the usage numbers and still finalizing the frequency that the sewage truck might need to come and pump out. But, you know, speaking with Riverside Park Conservancy, you know, we're thinking once or twice a week during the summer months, maybe after a holiday weekend, that might be a third, you know, if they come in, like say after Labor Day weekend or something like that, maybe that Tuesday, and then 2 or 3 times, you know, later in the week. And then as it gets into the fall and winter months, you know, once a week, once every other week, you know, Riverside Park Conservancy will really be able to monitor that and adjust as needed.
Chad,
Yes, sir.
You really don't mean to say Riverside Park Conservancy. You're really referring to the Parks Department's own Riverside Park staff. So,
Yes, sorry, I appreciate you making that clarification.
Yeah, please, yeah, you're referring to John Harold, our Riverside Park administrator, our deputy administrator, Ben Kramer, Margaret Bracken, our landscape architect, all of whom are on this call. But those are Parks Department staff.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, and I really appreciate that. So yes, our staff will be, you know, coordinating the frequency of that pumping.
Okay, thank you. This is a little difficult. It's because we're on share screen. It's really hard for me to tell who's got their hands up or if anybody has.
I can stop sharing if it works for you.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thanks. Usually I'm doing meetings using 2 screens, so I
Same
don't
here,
generally
unfortunately.
have this problem. I'm not seeing any hands up. Okay, so here's the part where I need everybody. Oh, wait, sorry, I've got some questions in the Q&A. Yes, Ira Gershenhorn says, kind of looks like Lopez Playground Comfort Station in Staten Island, which I'm guessing is exactly, that's the prototype, the first one of this. So
that's correct.
Ira gets props for that, for recognizing that. Thank you, Ira. And his question about the schedule for the sewage truck was answered. Will the restrooms be heated in the winter? If so, how?
Yes, the restrooms will be heated. We have a electric air handler. It'll be hot air.
Okay. Thank you for that question. It didn't occur to me, but great question. Nobles, you got a question?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I have 2. Thank you so much for the presentation and for your work, first and foremost. Steve, this question actually might be for you more so, the first one. When it comes to the maintenance and upkeep of the bathroom, I'm assuming that's Parks Department, right?
Yeah, there's a Parks Department
Okay.
facility. Who else would it be?
Well, just in case, because I'm still kind of learning like where contractors pick up where Parks Department, also
Got
have
it.
responsibility. So, this is like, basically pop-up bathroom, which I love the pop-up design, sustainability part of it. Like I understand that kind of modular thinking is fantastic. But my second question is, oh gosh, I lost it. Please come back to me if I have it, maybe in the end, or I'll email it. Sorry.
Okay, so in the interest of time, and since there are no other questions other than Nobles, you're not really old enough to be having this kind of memory thing. That's more of a me thing. It's kind of like,
Oh man, it's like you got to catch the sail, and when the wind goes away, it's just gone.
yeah,
Sometimes.
no worries. So if everybody on the committee could turn on their cameras so I can just get a show of hands. Do we like this project? Do
I
we
remember what it
approve?
was, Chair. I'm sorry. It's a little bit
Yes.
important. It's a little bit important.
Okay.
When it comes to the roof of this, I'm thinking about Sally, which probably asked this question. Is it possible to be a green roof? Because a flat roof from
It is a
drainage
green
pers-
roof. He already said it's a
I
green
missed
roof.
that part. I have bad Wi-Fi in this hotel. I apologize. I'm up.
Totally, no worries. That is a great question, and Sally will appreciate that. So since I find group writing exercises tedious, I would happily put together a resolution, thumbs up, hit the yes button, nod your head. We like this project. Members of the committee. Okay. Luana, Naima, you're gonna need to like raise your hand or something. Barbara, can you turn your video on so we can see you and hear you? Barbara and Naima, are you still in the meeting?
Maybe
Okay,
they have connection issues. We still have quorum.
no, we don't.
Oh,
Mancita, me, Luana, Nobles, Danny, that's 5. We need 6. So. All right, well, hopefully they can hear me and they're working on their audio, but we're not going to be able to vote on it. I would propose that we would have a resolution that has a bunch of whereases that sort of summarize what we've just heard. Steve, if you can email me so that I can incorporate into the reso a little bit of language, just reminding us of the time frame for this, and also the cost and the source of funding. I believe this is funded by the borough president, yes? So if you can share that with me so that I can include it in the reso.
No, it's money that he obtained when he was still a council member.
Okay, great. All right, so if you could send me the information on the time frame and the cost,
Okay.
that would be great. We'll echo some of the features of this. We'll include information about the that it's a holding tank, that there's a scheduled pickup. We'll include information about the tree removal and the restoration of trees elsewhere, the addition of the picnic tables, the request for sort of more subdued, muted coloring, even the color scheme, even as it does pick up the colors of the surrounding, the adjacent playground, the water recapture feature in the adjacent rain garden, and our request for the addition of the dog feature, which I think is the only really substantial change. Are there any other comments? Going once, going twice. Okay. So by roll call, Mancita, in favor, against?
In favor?
Okay, Nobles,
In favor?
Luana,
In favor.
excellent, Barbara,
In favor?
Danny,
In favor?
Relatives who perished in World War II.
I am in favor, and Naima, are you in the meeting? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, we have quorum.
Barbara came back. Hey, Barbara.
Excellent. And we do have, Steve is obviously not voting because due to conflict because he works for the Parks Department. We also have Mary Anderson on the call, or we had Mary. Is she still on the call? She is not. Okay. All right. No other board members. All right. So that's unanimously in favor. When is the PDC's meeting?
Chad? When is the next PDC meeting on this?
So the next submission date will be middle of October. I don't remember the date off the top of my head. Their last meeting was yesterday. So our next submission is in a couple of weeks for their October meeting, which usually about the third week or so of October.
Okay, so we, the committee proposes a resolution, but it gets voted on by the full board. We do not have the authority, only the board can speak for the board. The work of the board happens in committees, but it's only the board that can pass resolutions. Our next board meeting, oh wait, you said October, fine. Because this will go to our September general meeting. Just a word, Nobles, you're muted.
Yeah, because I'm just talking to myself.
Oh, okay. I saw your mouth moving and I couldn't hear you. So
Yeah, I
I just
appreciate that,
want to disclose that because our next full board meeting is on September 27th, when it's still the second day of Rosh Hashanah, I will not be at that meeting. So Nobles, our committee's assistant chair, will be presenting this resolution at the full board. I can't imagine that it won't pass, unanimously, because what's not to love about this, but just know that we can't, we don't speak for the board, only the board speaks for the board. Naima, how do you vote on this resolution? Were you hearing that conversation and just not able to unmute?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, Liz, the full board was moved to the 28th.
Oh, sweet. Glad to hear it. You're off the hook, Nobles. Okay, thank you, Chad. I appreciate it. And
Thank you all.
It's 8:42. Very sorry to Dr. Toomey and to Jason and Corey at NYRP, but we had a lot going on. So if you could share with us your research findings, on your student research project on Sherman Creek.
Hey everyone, Jason Smith from NYRP here. For those of you who don't know me, I've been working in Northern Manhattan Parks with NYRP for about 15 years now, helping Parks Department care for Sherman Creek, parts of Highbridge Park, and the Harlem River Greenway. Last fall, we were really delighted to host a team from Pace University, a team of great scientists, Dr. Toomey, Dr. Palta, and one of their students, Cam Becker, is here. And they did a bunch of different things at Sherman Creek Park. They focus in general on the overlap of social and ecological systems in our public spaces. But we were at NYRP, we were particularly excited to learn from them and learn from what their findings were in conducting what's called a social assessment of the space. And I encouraged them to present to the community board because I think the social assessment is an important tool for taking a snapshot of use and perceptions of our waterfront and public spaces, and it gives us a very different look at what the community might think of a public space than you might get from a community board meeting or a public charrette or some of the other tools that are used in community engagement. If anyone has any more questions about this project or NYRP's work, please follow up with me. Hopefully Liz can connect us, but I won't keep you any longer. And I'll turn it over to the team from PACE.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and thanks so much, Liz, for inviting us to be here. I'm just going to share my screen, and I will go through this very quickly. I know everyone's probably tired. So, yeah, as Jason said, we came to PACE to Sherman Creek Park last fall. This is all my students' names who joined us. And we had two main goals. So we'd reached out to Sherman Creek Park and NYRP to develop a course that we thought would be interesting for students, but also, you know, we would do some research or some work that would be useful and relevant to Sherman Creek Park and the community surrounding Sherman Creek Park. So a couple of things that came up from those earlier meetings, one was to have a better understanding of how people use and value Sherman Creek Park and visions for future programming, and then also to develop some educational opportunities and materials for the general public to engage more with Sherman Creek Park and also for educators. So Jason mentioned the social assessment. One thing we did there was that we used these different protocols that had been developed to really just like see how people were using the park, how they valued it, what environmental problems people were aware of, and then how park users and local residents would like to see the waterfront developed. So the methods included observation, just how are people biking, people walking through, signs of use. We used photography and just taking images of different human uses that we observed. And then we did interviews with people along in Sherman Creek Park and then in the peripheral areas surrounding the park. So some findings, we found that most people really appreciated the amenities in terms of nature, scenery, the nature-based amenities of Sherman Creek Park. And a lot of people really spoke to the importance of how well kept the park was. Many people mentioned NYRP's role and just feeling like the staff was friendly and feeling like it was a safe place to go. We also found that people were interested in really keeping the park as it is, but also to have some more programming and events to bring more people in, like music, etc. And then in terms of waterfront visions, people talked a lot about the importance of green space along the waterfront, new amenities and infrastructure, and then some concerns about potential commercial development or gentrification. Connected to this came up the boathouse that's coming up, and we were interested to see what people knew about it. Although most people didn't know that it was coming, a lot of people talked about how it could be a positive amenity for the park, and were interested in public access and programming that could be associated with that, especially for young people. So I'll hand it over now to Dr. Palta, who's going to talk about some of the educational materials we developed.
Yeah, so as Dr. Toomey talked about, Anne talked about, we did this great social assessment, and concurrent with the course that she was running where they did the social assessment, I also worked with some students in a separate course to develop educational opportunities for students and teachers and the general public. And you can advance the next slide, Anne. So the main ideas behind the education and engagement stuff that we developed was to really work at the intersection of some different environmental issues that were relevant to Harlem residents. So we identified, along with some input from NYRP staff, the fact that there are air quality concerns that are relevant to the neighborhood, residents of the neighborhood and in Harlem. There are water quality issues, and then there's a lot of interest in wildlife, both maybe in learning more about the types of wildlife that are there, and getting more kind of environmental literacy around the kinds of wildlife that are present. And we really wanted to overlap some of these concerns or issues or interests with ongoing efforts at Sherman Creek Park by the New York Restoration Project. So there are a number of restoration projects ongoing there. There's a forest that was planted through the Million Trees Project and is monitored and tended as such. There's a living shoreline, which includes oyster reefs and a marsh restoration. And there are ties between this and the wider spread Billion Oyster Project taking place in New York City. There's also ongoing efforts to develop community gardening opportunities at the site, and there is a community garden there. So we really tried to link our educational and engagement materials to these ongoing restoration efforts by NYRP and really tie it back to addressing some of these, basically how the restoration projects are addressing the environmental issues and areas that we identified. So I will let Cam, our awesome student, talk more about one of the projects within this, since she was very actively involved and in developing it. So.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to work closely with Jason and Dr. Toomey, taking some interpretive materials that other students, including myself, had written for the class. And basically what we did was we picked a bunch of points in the park that had some interesting features, such as like the freshwater pond, like the children's garden and that sort of thing. And we basically just wrote a blurb about that area of the park, and that was condensed down and will be featured in QR codes around the park, which will be in English and hopefully soon translated into Spanish to serve.
Already done.
Okay, amazing. To serve the community in the best way that we can. And basically it's just going to be like a little educational scavenger hunt. We are currently awaiting the New York City Parks Department approval, but after that, everything else is ready. We've got all the posters ready to go, and I'm super excited for this project to be implemented.
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah, so in addition to this awesome QR scavenger hunt that was developed, that was based on different features, different restoration projects and environmental issues within the park. We also developed these. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, if you could just back up your personal tape for like 2 sentences, because we lost that.
Absolutely. Sorry, my phone started ringing. I forgot to silence my phone, so I think that screwed with the mic. Sorry about that. I just silenced it. So in addition to this QR scavenger hunt, where again, those restoration projects and features that are associated with different environmental issues and interests were tied with information that the community can gain by scanning the QR codes. We also developed some educational modules for use by K-12 educators. And so this was presented to NYRP staff by the 2 students who were working with me on these modules. So you can see the demonstration that they were giving, the photos on the left. And there are some excerpts from one of the modules that was developed. This one is on air quality. So looking at how the trees, for example, planted by the Million Tree Project, how you can measure them and use that to estimate how much carbon dioxide they're storing in a given year. So basically different kinds of benefits that are provided by the restoration projects. So I have a list of the modules that we developed in the lower corner here. One, as I said, was estimating the carbon storage of trees at the park. Another was measuring ozone pollution that's associated with roadways nearby. Another gave instructions for water quality testing, both in the living shoreline area and near pipes that are exiting the combined sewer overflow system in New York, as well as modules for identifying different marsh species, different species that have been restored to the site. So as you can see from the excerpts that I've posted here, there are charts. There are listed materials, there are detailed instructions, so that someone could easily pick up these instructions and utilize them if they wanted to carry out an activity with their students at the park. And we even give some suggestions as to where they can carry out this activity with the students, again, based on different features in the park.
Thanks, Monica. So just to wrap up, our next steps is I'm teaching another class this fall. We're going to be doing what's called sidewalk science, which is actually like tabling, and then you create these fun interactive ways to engage with different people who come along and we're going to be asking people about perceptions of waterfronts, what they want for their waterfront, mainly working on the Bronx side of the Harlem River with the Harlem River Working Group. But there may be some opportunities also to continue some work in Sherman Creek Park and do one of these events there. Just, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, just to sum up, you know, we're hoping that this type of social assessment could be a way to gauge interest. I could share some of the materials that we used if anyone's interested in doing this in their own park or their own neighborhood. It's not something you need a PhD to do. Anyone can do it. And you know, some questions we have are if anyone wants to chime in and like what future research would be interesting, you know, useful for decision making around waterfront development and for Community Board 12. So I'll stop my share there, and I'll share these slides with you, Liz, as well, so you can hopefully don't have to take
Thank
notes.
you. I was actually just going to ask you that. That was super interesting. Thank you very much. I would have called actually on Dr. LeGrand in one of the local public schools. She's got a child who goes to one of the local public schools. It's further up in Inwood, but it occurs to me that reaching out to some of the Inwood public schools, particularly obviously PS5 that's right there. I'm going to assume you've already done that because I noticed you've got a K through 12 curriculum, aspects of a K through 12 curriculum. So there is a New York City public school right there. If you haven't reached out to them, I would strongly encourage you to do that. But also the Muskota New School, which is on Broadway between 204th and Academy. They often do community field trips. So, and it's not that far. I'd have to think a little bit, and since we're getting late on time, I don't really want to do that right now, but I would love to engage with you to connect you, perhaps. Actually, if you would be willing to give the curricular piece of this presentation to our education committee, they are, not surprisingly, much more well-versed in who are the contacts at the schools, because you know there's just such a need for STEM and science curriculum, and for this kind of incredible resource to be in our backyard. That would be a great addition, I think, for some of our local schools. Love the scavenger hunt. Love any kind of QR code stuff.
That would be
That's just
fantastic.
really
Yeah,
smart.
we would love to have this utilized and to be better connected with educators who could use this. And you were going to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say Jason had asked if we could find someone to test out the modules to make sure that they make sense. So maybe that would be a good opportunity.
Yeah. So Nobles, you want to bring your kids up and do this?
Dude, I'm bringing everybody up into this.
Yeah, these are really very simple activities, and my students have like a little blurb like giving background on like why this is important, why you're measuring it, how it's relevant to New York City. And so I think like these are very simple protocols, but they're a really good way of kind of linking to the immediate environment, you know. So like and these could be utilized at any site really, and could be made relevant to, you know, any park really.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. So I kind of hate to give you more work and to send you to more meetings, but as interesting and as park-based as this is, and of course it's appropriate to come here, there's a, I don't need to tell you, y'all are teachers. There's an educational gold mine here, and we've got lots of public schools. So I would love it if you could possibly give me a sort of shorter version of this so that I can forward it to committee chair and can send it around to some of the people that I may know who are in some of our local schools, including Allegra. I'm sorry that she's not here to have caught this presentation because I think she would have really loved it.
Would you like a one pager, like a?
Yeah, if you've got like
Okay.
a one pager and also like a PDF of that of the scavenger hunt, I think that would really pique people's interest, and then I can try to connect you. I mean, community boards don't have any authority, but the power that we have is through networking and conversations like this that lead to conversations like that. So I'd love to be able to connect you with some school and education people. I see
could also-
Nobles and then.
I was going to say, we can also, when the QR codes do go live, and the signs go up, we can have an unveiling and invite community board to come out and have like a kind
Love
of
that.
Something at Sherman Creek.
Love that. I got 2 questions from our committee members, Nobles followed by Steve.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Chair. You certainly know how to put together an agenda. That was certainly well worth the wait. Thanks so much for the work, y'all. That was absolutely fantastic. Little bit of admiration, and then I'll get to my question. Y'all definitely put together the perfect process of what we call digital transformation in the marketing business, where you take digital processes and you apply it to more like traditional rote pieces of our life. In marketing, I do it in marketing. You've just done it for public works. Kudos and well done. My question comes to actually the first part about it, the market research part about it, in terms of how you crowdsource the information of maybe where your focuses might go. I was wondering how you did that through the social graph. Like, were you using, hashtags and like amalgamating some of the information you see there? Just wondering how that process went, because I thought that was really fascinating. Thanks.
Are you asking about the social assessment when the
In the very beginning, correct.
Okay, yeah, that was actually through this method where you have these sheets and you actually observe, like you see someone biking by, tick, you tick off, like you're counting.
Qualitative, huh?
Yeah, so and then you're
Jeez.
interviewing people in space. So you have a very short 5 to 10 minute interview that you do with people in the space. It's very quick, it's very easy. I can share the protocols with you. We're actually creating a community toolkit so that anyone can take this method and just apply it in their own neighborhood.
Well, like if you're interested in applying the social graph in terms of like social mentions and engagements and all of that, I'd certainly be around to like bend your ear for 15, 30 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
That's my line of work.
I'll post my email in the chat. So
cool. And I'm also the vice chair of the committee. I'll have very information probably already. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, I'm speaking now as a community board member. I just want to suggest that if you're going to do this presentation in any local schools or community groups around Sherman Creek, you might want to change the slide that had those 2 overlapping circles, one of which said something about environmental concerns of Harlem residents. Maybe you want to indicate that you're referring to residents of Inwood, Washington Heights, or Washington Heights Inwood, to make it more focused on the immediate community.
Yeah, thank you for catching that. I meant to say something. I mean, it is the Harlem River, but we're Inwood. So yeah, you would definitely want to change this to Inwood.
That totally makes sense. The air and water quality issues are really relevant to the entire city, which is what makes these protocols applicable to, I think, all neighborhoods. But I totally appreciate that for presentations that are tailored toward particular communities or neighborhoods, that they would want to know that this is applicable to them as well. So yeah, absolutely. That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Naima?
I was actually raising my hand so that when we move to the next agenda item, I have a question there.
Yeah, okay. I will call on you first in the next agenda item. So thank you so much. Sorry that I anticipated that it was going to be a little bit earlier and this meeting wasn't going to be quite so long, but there isn't a single item on this agenda that I would have missed, because it's all been incredibly interesting. I just love this. Cam, I hope you got an A in this class, because it was great work. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
Thank you.
Great. So it's 9:03. Unfortunately, we are not going to have very much time for the discussion of the budget, but I do just want to walk people a little bit through what to expect for next month. So I will be sending out, I meant to do it, I meant to be a little bit more prepared for this piece. But as some of you know, my daughter was expecting her first child, was supposed to be born later this month. She came a little bit early, so I'm now a grandma, yay. But it did kind of mess with my work mojo. And I did not. Thank you. Yeah, so I actually want to get back upstairs to my granddaughter. But I will be sending out last year's budget, what our committee recommendations were, and then the reminder of where they fared in the board's overall priorities. And what we typically do is we remove any items that got funded, you know, because we don't need to prioritize funding for things that have already been funded or have been completed. And things that have been completed are removed altogether. Things that have been funded don't need to be prioritized. We just tag them for continuing support, and then we add any new items that I generally go through the previous year of minutes to see what conversations, like the one that we had an hour ago with Shiloh, have we had that talked really specifically about some capital needs. And then, you know, we talk about what are some other things that we would like to add. It is important to keep in mind that this process can't, you know, we can't make our capital list and our expense budget list a very long wish list of everything that we want, because if every committee did that, there would be 120 projects and 75 new programs. And, you know, obviously not all of those things are going to get done. So it's important to try to have some level of focus on what are the priorities, and to think not only what are our personal preferences, but what are the things that matter most broadly speaking, based on, you know, because we have a role to be not only true to our own selves, but to represent our whole community, broadly speaking, not just our own narrow personal interests. So that's kind of what I got. I'm sorry I didn't have a little bit more of the detail for us to chew on this month, but at this point we wouldn't really have time for it. And Naima, you've got a question or a statement.
Yeah, so I know that earlier I just replied yes. So I wanted to clarify that yes, I was listening, I was present, and I have a question or concern that maybe can be addressed in the future in the old business for the next meeting.
Yes.
But regarding the Discovery Playground at Fort Washington, he mentioned that there was going to be like a sewage system would have to be built brand new because it doesn't exist there. So my question is, and they did say that
no, that's so, because there isn't a sewage system, because there isn't an existing attachment to the sewage system, you have essentially two options. One is to do plumbing, which is incredibly expensive, and the other, and they're not doing, and the other is to build the thing. I don't know if you were able to see the,
yeah, I was seeing it.
Okay, so they're building it with a sewage holding tank. What that comfort station essentially is it's this is not a perfect analogy, but it's not entirely unlike a very, very, very large porta potty. So in the same way that a porta potty,
So that's why
isn't
he kept saying
long-
that they would bring the truck and take them out on a certain
Yeah.
schedule.
So if you think about the way a porta potty or rent-a-john or whatever, how that works is it's a box and it's got, the little toilet, and then there's a holding tank underneath the toilet. And when you go to swap that out, you either pick up the whole thing and move it, or you have a tank that drains the sewage from that unit. So this is sort of like that. Not really, because they're going to be actual toilets, such as you would use in a building or in your home. They will flush and they will use water, but instead of flushing into a sewage pipe that drains into the New York City sewage system,
right,
it's
It would
going to
be
drain
taken-
into a holding tank, and then once
It
or
would be
twice a
transported.
week in the summer, or once a week or once every other week in the winter, a truck will come in, drain the sewage holding tanks, drive the sewage away. I'm
Got
not
it.
sure I really want to know exactly where.
No,
it's
it's fine. You just clarified it. That's
It's my
perfect.
question about who services the thing, and that's the Parks Department. So that's a whole entire staff, basically.
No, I think that, I'm not sure if and it's not really, it's a level of detail that's interesting, but not really relevant. I believe there will be a contractor
Yes.
that will come and drain the
Ooh,
thing.
I said, is it a contractor? I was wondering that. Thank you for answering the
Okay,
question.
so it's not gonna be the contractor who services the contractor that's building the project is building the project. There will be another contractor completely unrelated to the contractor that's building the project, who will be responsible for servicing the sewage tank.
Thank you, because I was wondering
Bingo.
if that was city dollars that was, hiring a staff, or if that was a contractor.
No.
Okay, thank you. That
So
was
in
my
the same
question.
way, so imagine if a municipal project built a building and then hired
Hired a
people
cleaning
to
staff or
shovel
something.
snow in the winter.
Right.
So
Perfectly on board.
when Chad mentioned the involvement of the city parks workers, where they will be involved is they're going to know how many people are using the park. They're going to be the noses on the ground who are like, hello, this thing really needs to be cleaned more often. So the Parks Department will be responsible for making sure that it's clear how often this thing needs to be cleaned, but there will be a contractor who will come and drain the sewage.
Because I was wondering when I asked the question was because if there, is to be questions that come to us once this is built and
Mhm.
summer comes, you and I at that point would be like, oh, we had that conversation before. This is the way it goes. Because if the city was taking care of it, then you call 311, which you could still do. But at the same time,
It would still
I
totally be
understand now.
appropriate. Like if
That
people
was
are
my
noticing that the bathroom is gross,
Thank
then they can call 311 and say the bathroom is gross. And I guess the way that works is that gets routed to the Parks Department, and then the Parks Department has to poke the sewage contractor.
In 2 or
Although this
3
is sort of-
years, when we get this question
Yeah,
from the
although this
public,
is-
you, Jen, and Steve owe me a beer. All three. I'll take all three.
Okay, so although this is sort of a longer amount of time than I generally would have devoted to this, one of the things that I think is really interesting about this modular bathroom concept is this is a much, much less expensive way to add really needed services. So it occurs to me that rather than spending, the millions of dollars to plumb, we should be, I think, adding this kind of modular toilet as a capital request for the Dykeman ball fields.
Oh my God.
Thank you for saying that, because I was waiting to get to Dykeman Fields at another time. But thank you for saying that, because there are so many families that use that park.
Yes,
throughout
ma'am.
the year.
Yes, it
And it
is.
has a
And
green
you will
roof.
recall I don't know, a year and a half ago or whenever it was when we were talking, a year ago, when we were talking about the soccer field, we all really want a bathroom there. The problem with a bathroom there is, again, there's no plumbing. So in order to put a comfort station at the Dykeman ball fields, you would need to plumb 3/4 of a mile from the sewer line at Dykeman Street. That's like, I don't know, $3.8 bajillion or whatever. I mean, it's some stupid
Human
number.
resource costs. That's why the contractors work.
Sorry, I don't want to take more time on this, but just since we're on the topic really quickly, I go to Dykeman Fields often. However, I don't, there's a building that Parks has right there in the corner as you're walking towards.
Yeah, it's a bathroom.
Folks can use that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but it's still ultimately 18 blocks away from the north end of Dykeman Fields, because Dykeman is what, 200, and Dykeman Fields goes up to roughly 218th Street. So we really do want to find a way to have public restrooms at the north end for Uptown Soccer and the
Ask any
next.
parent.
I
Ask
just
any
want to
parent.
put it out there, if temporarily the porta potty can be put in, because I know that one of the folks, like a community leader that uses the fields for baseball, for example, they pay out of their own pocket to have that
Yes.
rental there. So
Question.
Permit holders are allowed to have their own porta sand there.
is that something that the parks can cover at some point down the road?
We can certainly request that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Feel a resolution being made, Naima?
Oh, if it's possible, I would love to, yes.
Okay, unfortunately, my
For a
internet
future meeting,
connection is totally unstable. And so I'm actually gonna have to hop off this call because I'm only everybody sounds like they're talking underwater, and I don't think it's you, it's me.
Motion to adjourn?
I would take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Naima's a public member. I
Is
don't
there a
think she can
second?
Second.
Danny?
No, I see Mancita has taken herself off of
Barbara?
mute.
I do believe we can second. We have voting power.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
All right. Right? That's it.
Anybody?
Oh, she's frozen.
Excellent.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, I'm frozen again.
I love you.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you.